Good afternoon. Notice of a public meeting of the City Commission of the City of Brownsville pursuant to Chapter 551, Title 5 of the Texas Government Code, the Texas Open Meetings Act. Notice is hereby given that the City Commission of the City of Brownsville, Texas, in accordance with Article 5, Section 12 of the Charter of said city, will convene a regular meeting on September 19, 2023 at 5 p.m. at the City Commission chambers located on the second floor of the Brownsville City Hall Old Federal Building, located at 1001 East Elizabeth Street, Brownsville, Texas. Members of the public who submitted a public comment form will be permitted to offer the public comments as provided by the agenda and as permitted by the presiding officer during the meeting. A recording of the meeting will be made and will be available to the public in accordance with the Open Meetings Act. Mayor, it is 5:01. You may call the meeting to order.
Thank you, Yoli. It is, being that we do have a quorum, I'd like to call today's meeting to order.
The next item is roll call, followed by the invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance. Invocation, Pastor Brad Burks.
Let's all stand for the prayer and please remain standing afterwards for the pledge. Father God, we thank you for the city of Brownsville. We thank you for the state of Texas and for the nation that we live in. Lord, we ask you to continue to bless this nation, lead and guide each one of us. Lord, after what we've been through at the state level, Lord, I ask you to bring us all together in unity and receive warnings from what other people have suffered. Lead and guide each of us. Draw our hearts closer to you so we can receive direct revelation from you on every issue, from our personal lives to our official lives. Lead and guide us in this decisions here today. We ask you to lead our mayor, our commissioners, and everyone that presents anything, Lord, for the best for the city of Brownsville. In the name of Jesus Christ, amen. And now we'll have a short moment of silence where we can all add our prayers to what has already been spoken. Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, and one and indivisible.
Next item, we have proclamations. First proclamation recognizing Alfonso Vallejo.
May I please call Mr. Vallejo to come forth, please? Your family. A proclamation of the City Commission of Brownsville, Texas, recognizing Gustavo Alfonso Vallejo Rivero. Whereas Alfonso Vallejo, a native of Puebla, Mexico, with dual citizenship in both the United States of America and Mexico, has dedicated 43 years of his professional life to work in the field of transportation, with implications at the local, regional, state, and federal levels. And whereas Alfonso Vallejo dedicated his studies to the field of his passion, transportation, receiving a Bachelor's of Science degree in Industrial Engineering and Computer Systems, an MBA with a focus in both government and private sectors, and continued studies in the master's field of transportation for urban areas. And whereas Alfonso Vallejo dedicated 21 years to the city of Brownsville, including 18 years as a deputy director for the Rio Grande Valley Metropolitan Planning Organization, and 3 years with the Planning and Redevelopment Department as a transportation mapping manager, during which time he championed numerous projects and reports that have contributed to much of the transportation infrastructure we have today. And whereas among the achievements of Alfonso Vallejo is his work on the B Metro FM 802 bus station design, the West Rail relocation project, the East and West Loop projects, the State Highway 550 corridor to the Board of Brownsville, the Second Causeway project, the historic Battlefield Hike and Bike Trail, and wildlife projects impacting local species, including pelicans and ocelots. And whereas Alfonso Vallejo was a testament to being an exemplary citizen and community servant, having demonstrated exceptional dedication and passion towards his chosen career through which he has had a positive impact on the lives of countless citizens and on the local environment and wildlife. Now, therefore, we, the members of the Commission of the City of Brownsville, Texas, by virtue of the authority vested by charter of said city, and on behalf of all of our citizens, do hereby recognize Alfonso Vallejo, his exemplary collection of work throughout his professional career, and the impact he has made in the area of transportation in South Texas, and further call upon the residents of Brownsville to do the same and to be inspired by his dedication and portfolio of work, which makes a difference for the people of Brownsville. Done on this day, the 19th day of September, 2023.
Mayors and Commissioners, Mayor John Cowan, Commissioner Brian Martinez, District 1, Linda C. Garcia, District 2, Roy de los Santos, District 3, Pedro Carnes, District 4, Tino Villarreal at large A, and Rose Gowan, MD at large B. Sí. Tino Villarreal, sorry, City Manager Helen Ramirez, and Director of Planning and Development Service Rick Vasquez. Today, I live here knowing more than when I arrived. I have been a technical person. More importantly, I live with friends. I once called them colleagues. Thank you for being more than coworkers. I look forward to continue our friendship and to be a family member of the city of Brownsville. Also, to keep in touch with each of you. God bless you and thank you.
I told Mr. Vallejo he can come down. This is his home, and whenever he wants to come help, hopefully you'll still keep engaged and join all the committees, and just you're a part of us. You're a family for us, and you're welcome anytime. Thank you, sir.
Next proclamation, we have recognizing Valley Baptist Medical Center, Brownsville, for their centennial celebration.
This is a proclamation of the Commission of Brownsville, Texas, recognizing and honoring Valley Baptist Medical Center, Brownsville, on their centennial celebration. Whereas for 100 years, Valley Baptist Medical Center, Brownsville has steadfastly provided high-quality care and healthcare services to the residents of Brownsville and beyond. And whereas throughout its storied history, Valley Baptist Medical Center Brownsville has continuously ushered in medical advancements and state-of-the-art technology, bringing the latest in medical treatments to our community. And whereas Valley Baptist Medical Center Brownsville has experienced remarkable growth over the past century, evolving from an early example of a modern-day hospital under the benevolent guidance of the Sisters of Mercy, and a generous community to its present-day stature as an integral part of the Tenet healthcare family, echoing their motto of a community built on care. And whereas with unwavering dedication to the well-being of the South Texas region, Valley Baptist Medical Center Brownsville employs over 1,300 medical professionals, encompassing both nursing and non-medical staff, making it a cornerstone employer in our community. And whereas during the hospital's century of caring, the countless physicians, nurses, technologists, therapists, as well as administrative, volunteer, and support service staff, along with patients and community members, have made Valley Baptist Medical Center Brownsville what it is today. Their current counterparts are leading the journey to the second 100 years. And whereas Valley Baptist Medical Center Brownsville has stood as a bedrock institution in our community, welcoming new life, guiding countless residents on their path to recovery, and ensuring every patient is treated with the utmost compassionate care and dignity. Now, therefore, we, the members of the City Commission of the City of Brownsville, Texas, by virtue of the authority vested by the charter of said city, and on behalf of all of our citizens, do hereby recognize and celebrate Valley Baptist Medical Center Brownsville for its unwavering commitment, its unparalleled services, and its continued dedication to the residents of the Rio Grande Valley and surrounding communities. Done on this, the 19th day of September, 2022. So before we take a picture, I'd like to say personally that I was born at Valley Baptist when it was Mercy Hospital, not when it was incepted 100 years ago, but quite a few years ago. And it's always held a special place in my heart, and I've always felt safe there myself and my family. So thank you for what you do and all that you will do in the future.
I'm a little overwhelmed. It's very humbling. Mayor Cowan, Commissioners, City Manager Ramirez, thank you for recognizing the profound impact that generations of Mercy Hospital, Brownsville Medical Center, and Valley Baptist Medical Center Brownsville healthcare teams have had on the health and well-being of the community that we all love. While we're grateful, so grateful for the recognition, we would be remiss if we didn't take this opportunity to in turn thank everyone who places their trust in us to care for their family in Brownsville and throughout the Rio Grande Valley, in addition to our extended families across the border in Matamoros and beyond. In addition to providing award-winning healthcare for more than a century, Valley Baptist Brownsville is truly part of our community's rich history, and that is something that we acknowledge with immense pride. As this amazing proclamation mentioned, our history and partnership with our Brownsville community began with the founding and opening of Mercy Hospital on July 2nd, 1923. The building cost an estimate of $96,000 back then, which I assume was a lot of money. We became Brownsville Medical Center in 1973 and officially joined with Valley Baptist Health System to become Valley Baptist Medical Center Brownsville in 2004. While our name has changed a few times over the decades, what hasn't changed is that we've walked hand in hand with the community we love through more than a century of history, both local and global, all supporting the original faith-based mission of the founders, our Sisters of Mercy. Through the Great Depression, world wars, national disasters, and most recently an unprecedented global pandemic, Valley Baptist has been a pillar of our community, and we've been here to tend to its health and well-being through it all. We've been a part of the lighthearted times as well, celebrating many, many Charter Days, festivities, parades, and countless other celebrations with joy. As we reflect back on 100 years of being part of this amazing community, we're truly overwhelmed with gratitude for the opportunity and incredibly hopeful about the future we all collectively share. We've cared for generations of families here, and God willing, we'll care for generations more to come. Did want to say that we will host a community celebration on the hospital's grounds in November, Saturday, November 4th. So stay tuned and we'll give you more information. Once again, thank you so much for the heartfelt proclamation and for the trust you placed in us. Thank you.
Next item, we have public comment period. As a friendly reminder, public input during meetings, A, conversations between or among audience members should be conducted outside the meeting room. Attendees should refrain from conversations while commission is in session. B, cell phones, attendees must refrain from the operation and use of cellular telephones, pagers, etc., or any mechanical devices that may disrupt city commission proceedings. C, placards, banners, or signs are not permitted in the commission chambers or in any other room in which the city commission conducts a meeting. Included in this prohibition are various hats, caps, visors, and t-shirts, which may represent sentiments as alluded to regarding placards, banners, and/or signs. Exhibits, displays, and visual aids used in connection with presentations to the city commission are permitted. Only city commission members and city staff may approach the dais. If report letter, etc., is to be presented to the commission, it should be given to the city secretary or staff who will make the distribution. It is preferable that the item to be distributed be given to the city secretary prior to the meeting. A copy of the item should be made available for the city secretary's official record. F, all comments shall be made to the mayor and city commission as a whole and not to individual commission members. Okay. First public comment, Ms. Yolanda Spees. Ms. Spees, you have 3 minutes.
Thank you. Every time I come up here, I wonder what goes through your minds. The commission as a whole apparently saying the word "you" is a trigger for some of you to interrupt public comment. I don't like being up here, but I'm here because several members of the city government have made this bigger than it had to be. In a nutshell, Officer Efrain Cervantes broke the law, and the entire city government had to circle the wagons to protect his negligence and incompetence. Getting a hold of Ken Paxton to request a redaction of police records and denying me access to said records? Wow, that was inappropriate and unprofessional. If Cervantes did nothing wrong, why go to such great lengths to protect him? Because he did something wrong and those protecting him knew it. This was just a dog and it could have been resolved very quickly. Instead, it turned into this circus. Sorry, but replacing the dog is not an option anymore. I don't know if Debbie is alive or dead anymore, and that concerns me because she was safe with me. And the police took her from me only to allegedly be lost by Vargas. Vargas probably sold Dobie for money, and who knows who else this has been done to, because police are incompetent and negligent and do not know the law. What I do know is that Samantha Natalie Vargas made a false police report and stole my dog with the help of the Brownsville Police Department because the police either did not know the law, did not care, or Cervantes knew her. This entire case smelled from Jump Street. It smells right now, which is why I'm here. This got big because the city government doesn't want to admit their police made a mistake. That would be a liability, right? This could have been resolved a long time ago, but the city decided to do this to protect an incompetent police officer and a criminal to save face. You can fix this, but we have to be honest and professional and not give a concerned citizen like me the runaround. You should be working to fix this problem and clean up the mess created by the Brownsville Police Department and the Assistant City Attorney. You want me to go away, then talk to me, not at me, or tell me that I am inappropriate. I wouldn't be here if it weren't for the incompetence and negligence and the lack of training with the Brownsville Police Department. There are laws, and they violated a lot of them, along with Vargas. That puts Brownsville residents in danger. And no compliment by someone who doesn't know the situation is going to change that. I'm a concerned citizen, and I'm coming to you for help. Help me. Resolve the incompetent and negligent mistakes made by the Brownsville Police Department and the Assistant City Attorney. And don't tell me it's inappropriate and send me on my way and hope that'll make you happy. Your apathy is inappropriate and unprofessional. I'm one of many people this has happened to in the city of Brownsville. I just have the courage to come up here and say something, and I'm petty enough to say it too.
Next, we have Lawrence Fernandez.
I really want to thank you for the opportunity to be able to speak in front of you today. You have an item on your agenda later down that is dealing with our beautiful prospect of a park, the La Posada Park. I have a gift that I want to give to my beloved Brownsville. And it's just not my work, but it's the work of our committee members, a segment of the advisory committee that was formed in order to give input from a technical aspect, from the citizens that are around the park and whatever. And actually the content of this, about 200 pages, and I should know better than to surrender a 200-page report to you, but nonetheless, there are summaries in there. The content spans over 17 years of time. And it's the intention here is to yield input to what we need to consider, that we must consider in order to bring this beautiful park prospect into fruition, to serve our citizenry. I'm going to follow this particular report with a letter to City Manager coming up, and it's going to ask for an invitation in order to study the plan that is here. There's everything from engineering drawings to architectural renderings to commentaries by specialists, and it is all meant for the good of our community in every way. Please consider this, and thank you so much for even bringing this park to this point of development. Thank you again.
Thank you, Gene.
Next item, we have presentations. First presentation, Building Division Permit Update.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, Commissioners. My name is Omar Ochoa. I'm an Assistant Director with the Planning Department. Today I bring to you the Building Division Update. In 2020, the City Commission adopted ordinance number 2020-1485E. This ordinance adopted the 2018 Family of Construction Codes and the 2017 National Electric Code. These are all the codes that the City Commission adopted. We have part of our team here, a review team holding those codes. If you ever hear that there is a prior delay, it may be related to a disagreement between the plan submitted and one of these codes. Now, why were these codes adopted? These codes help prevent electrocution. They prevent damage from waterline breaks and leaks. They prevent loss of life from fire. They prevent structural collapse. They also prevent losses due to hurricane winds. And in general, they protect public health. For an update of Acela, we transitioned to Acela at the beginning of 2023. To date, there is an upward usage trend, currently at 67% as of last month. We've had multiple trainings. We have a user guide available in English and Spanish. Starting fiscal year 2024, we're also going to have a full-time Acela manager and a one-year temporary tech to assist contractors. We have ongoing staff supporting all the walk-ins. As of now, we have 1,600 citizen and contractor online accounts, and we have a little bit over 8,000 records created in Acela. The building division offers three main groups of permit types. First, we have simple permits such as repairs, demolition, moving, trade permits. These permits are issued the same day they're requested. We also have residential permits, single-family homes and duplexes. Staff takes 2 to 5 days to review and issue permits for this type of permits. And then we have complex permits, such as apartments, plazas, schools, etc. Staff takes up to 15 days for the first round of review and up to 10 days for the revisions. This is an example of the residential private permit workflow. This is for single family and duplex buildings. It takes staff 2 to 5 business days to review complete applications. If the plans are code compliant, then the permit gets issued. Now, if the plans have code deficiencies, the review comments are issued. The time it takes to submit revised plans is controlled only by the applicant. It may take a week, it may take a month, it may take more than that to submit revisions. But once the revisions are submitted, staff takes again 2 to 5 business days, and if the plans are code compliant, then the permit gets issued. There are some external factors that influence permit timelines. In this case, in particular, the quality of the construction documents. Now, who designs these plans? We have two groups. First, we have architects and engineers, and then we have designers. Architects and engineers are licensed by state. Designers do not have any licensing or education requirements. The numbers provided below each of these groups show the number of revisions required to approve these plans. As you can see, plans prepared by designers will typically require more revisions before the plans can get approved. By state statute, architects and designers are required to design plans that meet the criteria shown on the top of this table. However, designers are not restricted by any of these regulations, by any of the regulations outside this criteria, which means that a designer can draw plans for a building that is 20,000 square foot. This has been allowed to be more customer friendly and not restrictive, being that we are in a border economy. This is an example of a commercial private permit workflow. This is from concept to building permit. Applicants control the time they take to do their due diligence, to produce plans. Again, it may take them a month, a year, or more. Once plan review starts, staff takes 10 to 15 business days to review complete applications for code compliance. If the plans have code deficiencies, then review comments are issued. Again, the time it takes to submit revised plans is controlled by the applicant. It may take them a month, it may take them a year, or more. Revisions will take staff 5 to 10 business days to review, and if the deficiencies are corrected, then the building permit is issued. It's important to note that the review time for revisions will not be possible because we just hired a well-qualified senior plans examiner. Mr. Ismael Ortega just started in September, and he's already doing plan review for the city of Brownsville.
So we only had one commercial plan reviewer, but it took us some time, months, to find a qualified second commercial plan reviewer. Now, as of this month, we have 2 commercial plan reviewers. We've also always had third party. If they wanted a contract with third party, we have approved third party contractors, but that's just an option. Many of the developers opt to just to be, to utilize city staff versus third party, but they have that option if they'd want.
No, there are many moving parts before a commercial project is approved. There are internal factors that influence permit timelines. Commercial projects are reviewed by multiple departments and agencies. Some of these departments and agencies have multiple divisions, which may also cause delays. The building division coordinates the distribution of plans and gathering of comments from these departments and agency. And also the building division is in charge of notifying the applicant if there are code deficiencies to be corrected or if the building permit is ready to be issued. There are various milestones completed to improve permitting. First, the City Commission approved a hardware update for the planning department. We transitioned to electronic plan review instead of paper. Applicants were able to do remote submittals and tracking. We transitioned from manual distribution to electronic distribution. And we eliminated the mandatory office document submission. All of that was done in 2020. Also in 2020, the Unified Development Code was adopted, provided industry standards, flexible land regulations, and administrative flexibility. Also in 2020, the 2018 family of codes were adopted with the 2017 National Electric Code, as mentioned. In 2021, the City Commission approved the cell and land management platform. In 2021 and 22, the City Commission also approved third-party review, 2 companies. We have 2 providers available for contractors. In 23, we went live with Acela. Applicants were able to apply for online permits, track their application status online, and upload electronic documents. Now, for future, the fiscal year 24, the City Commission already approved Acela staffing adjustments. We are going to have a new fiscal tech. We're going to have an Acela technician for 1 year, and we have hired already senior plans examiner to help us with the commercial plans. If the commission has any questions, I can respond to them.
I'm sorry, Commissioner, just one thing. I've asked staff that, given that we have new employees and our commercial plan reviewer, what I've asked staff is to come back to you all in 6 months and to track the improved. One is to check how we can improve our review times with regard to, especially not only first review, but second review. And if there's a third review, can that be reduced? But we need to start tracking in as of September 1st, when the new employee was on site. And now with the fiscal text that those are going to be advertised October 1st. Anybody out there like to be part of our planning department? So we're gonna have that for hiring those employees and then come back to the commission with that data in terms of how have we improved performance given the additional employees that we've hired. So the plan is to come back to you with in 6 months to see how we're tracking and have continuous tracking of that time frame.
So first, thank you guys for the work that went into this. This is a great start. A couple of things and I apologize. I know I got to have a Q&A with you guys prior to the meeting. That answered a lot of my questions. A couple of things that had not occurred to me at the time. On the slide where you've got the permit workflow on a residential project, for future versions of that, I would include, in the event that there are additional corrections needed, that it would show that. If more corrections are needed, it flows it out. If not, then definitely the permit is issued. Other things I'd like to see, and right along with what the city manager was saying, and I know you guys will be back before us in 6 months, but even within 90 days, if it's just a written report, I'd like to see the average number of reviews by category. So I want to know if with residential, they're going to 2 and 3 reviews. Also what the high number is and the outliers as far as I assume the low is going to be 1 review, but the high, are we seeing some that had 7 reviews or 8 reviews? I'd like to know that both for residential and also for commercial. And then looking at what the average time is from the time of the application to the time of permit is issued. I want to know what those averages are running, but then also within that time frame, how much of that time is it that it's sitting with the applicant waiting for something on their part, and how much of that time is on the city side. And if appropriate, break it up by, is it one department versus another where the holdups are? I think that's valuable for us to look at and see. And I think you guys alluded to some of that. That way, if we identify that there are pain points somewhere, can we do something to adjust staffing or give them additional resources to help that? And overall, I think it makes your job easier and it makes it a better experience for the applicant. But thank you guys for the work so far.
Will do.
Yeah, I just like to concur with Commissioner De Los Santos. I think having that data will help us a lot. And I don't know how long you were expecting to report back on terms of data from the system to show that progress.
We'll do a report in 90 days, I heard, and then we'll do I think it's good to update the public and be open and transparent so we can come back with another presentation in 6 months to see how we're trending.
Great.
Thank you.
Next presentation by the Brownsville Public Utilities Board, providing an annual report on the progress of cooperation with the City of Brownsville as required by the city charter.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor Cowan, City Commissioners, and City Manager Ramirez. I'm Mark Dombrowski. I'm the Assistant General Manager and Chief Operating Officer for Brownsville Public Utilities. My pleasure to present the 2022-23 Annual Report for Brownsville Public Utilities. Tonight's brief presentation was developed to address the specific areas identified in Article 6 of the Utilities Board of the City Charter. This specific requirement was adopted in the 2021 Charter Amendment, and this is our first report to the Commission. And there's 4 areas we'd like to cover: the elimination of duplicate services, create administrative efficiency, provide joint service efforts, ensure quality of service at the lowest cost. In addition to tonight's briefing, you should have received a detailed written report from the utilities as well. So we work closely with the City Engineering and Public Works Department to coordinate utility infrastructure repair, upgrades, and installation with the city road repair and construction schedule. The collaboration reduces construction cost and road closure time. In 2023, we completed 2 major road-related projects. We have 9 street projects currently under construction and numerous in the planning or designing phase. Our cross-connection control department performs annual backflow testing for city-owned valves. Backflow preventers ensure that potable water supply is not contaminated due to a reverse flow event. This collaboration eliminates the cost of testing for the city while increasing our compliance with state requirements. I'd like to highlight a few areas for administrative efficiencies that we're taking care of. So we've collaborated with the city by engaging the services of Kayenta, a system to help us integrate Excella solutions. This will improve the experience for our citizens for permitting inspections. For example, when BPUB will get an automatic notice when an inspection has been passed. Prior to this, the Planning and Development Services would have to send an email to BPUB telling us that the inspection had been completed. So it'll streamline that event and allow us to turn on utilities at a quicker pace. We're also collaborating with the city by issuing joint billing, allowing customers to receive one bill for utility services and city charges. We issue approximately 690,000 bills annually. And our collaboration and cost cutting shares reduced costs and overhead associated with that billing and allows customers to make one consolidated payment for their utilities and city charges. I want to mention a few projects underway for joint services. And the first is that we maintain about 14,000 streetlights throughout the city. These enhance public safety by improving visibility for drivers, pedestrians, and bicyclists. We're upgrading the technology to energy efficiency LED lighting, which provides better illumination and reduces energy consumption and therefore cost. We're working to improve our communications with the city. We've assigned our Chief Administrative Officer as our city liaison. Her office now serves as a single point of contact for all inquiries and requests from the city, thereby streamlining and ensuring that accountability. We've also standardized our communications with the adoption of our service interruption communication process. So this is when customers are out of utility services. That process is now used by our public relations, digital information platforms, business development, and key accounts team to get the message out to our citizens. We revamped our regular meeting agenda to better resemble the city commission's agenda. And like the commission, we now live stream all board and committee meetings to increase public awareness. The city's middle mile fiber network, Project BTX Fiber, will make the internet accessible and affordable to residents and businesses. We're working jointly with the public-private partnership between the city and lit communities to reduce utility infrastructure conflicts in the right-of-way and to provide access to our utility poles. This will reduce the risk to utility services while also helping to control the cost of the project. And at the request of the U.S. Border Patrol, we assisted the city in responding to an emergency with the influx of migrants needing shelter in April of 2023. In coordination with the City Engineering Public Works Department, we energized 3 buildings and provided water tankers at the former Fort Brown Golf Course. Ensuring quality of service at the lowest cost. Well, I think nearly all of the efforts I presented tonight could fall under this category. I'd like to highlight a few different projects we're doing to ensure this. First is we're assisting the city in flood mitigation by providing backup power for the LTPAS facilities and stormwater pump stations used by the city during hurricane season. We work with the fire department to inspect, flush, and maintain over 100 hydrants. By being proactive, we can detect and correct deficiencies before they become public safety problems. Third, our CFO is working with the city CFO to memorialize an agreement to ensure the recovery of cost for services between the utilities and the city. Fourth project is Cannery Public Market. We're working to support the city's renovation by upgrading the water and wastewater infrastructure to enable the facility to support its commercial operations as the next Brownsville Farmers Market. And finally, the Rizaka Restoration Program. This multi-year effort aims to restore our vital Rizaka systems. Launched in 2013, the program will improve water circulation, help to control flood conditions, enhance water quality and storage, and support ecological improvements. In 2020, we received a $4.6 million grant from the Texas Commission on Environmental Qualities to fund the program that includes dredging to increase water storage and to improve water detention. Program's second phase will include replacing 2 deteriorating weir structures and a failed gate valve. We're installing 12 stormwater interceptors and bank improvements, and we're planting native vegetation. So that concludes my report for this evening, and I and the BP executive team are here to answer any questions you might have.
So just a few comments for you, and thank you very much for the report. I think this is exactly the type of things we need to see where the synergies are paying off for us. And I appreciate the continued cooperation and collaboration between PUB and the city at the department levels. One of the other areas I wanted to call out, because I don't know that it's a savings that's come about through collaboration or cooperation, but I do want to compliment PUB and the mayor and his work over there and the chairman over there, because I know that you guys have started scrutinizing to a greater degree your projects and also internally the spending. And I know that you guys have accomplished some things with regard to legal services, both through cooperation with our city attorney's office, but also with just how you guys do business that is poised to yield some significant savings for the taxpayers. So my compliments on that, because we're absolutely seeing improvements at PUB. His communication is excellent, because making sure the commission is in the know is of the utmost importance. That way we can be cheerleaders for you guys as well in everything that you guys are doing. And while I'll never be opposed to offering the most competitive rates we can to our citizens, for me personally, my priority is always going to be the reliability of our network. And that's everything from water and wastewater to electric. Given what we've seen in the past, and given that we're in an area that's prone to get hit by a hurricane, and thank God we have not in several years, ensuring that our infrastructure is where it needs to be to guard against power failures in the future, to me is a top priority. So you guys will have our full support on ensuring that our rates are what they need to be to ensure the infrastructure is there. Thank you.
Question? I echo what Commissioner De Los Santos said. My question is, you said about your billing that it was going to change. Does that mean that your software for billing changes?
No, so the software I mentioned, that's for our permitting process. So when the city approves a permit, we will get an automatic notification that that has passed, so we can turn on utility services at that location. So
No, I
that's what's changing.
I understood that, but in the past, many years ago, we wanted to include updates, important information on the PUB bills, because of course that was going out to a bunch of people anyway. But at the time, it was that you would have to have included that notice like 3 months before the bill. It was a big amount of time. And so it made no sense, especially if there was, let's say, COVID, and we wanted to notify the people that there were testing locations or something. That's just an example. Or maybe it would be something happy like, oh, there's a ciclovia this Friday, and we'd like to let the people know that that's going on. So is it still a very arduous task to add messages on your bills as you change your bills?
Okay, so I believe you're talking about the bill flyers that go in with the bill. Are you going to talk about that? Okay.
Yes.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yes, I do. We definitely don't have exactly how many days, but we are going through a bill renovation, if you will. And we'll be happy to continue to work with you in terms of messaging. I know that definitely the time has lowered for that. We do require a lead time because we do have some printing services that do the printing for us. But we will have, rest assured, in the new bill space to be able to communicate out to the community.
And the other part of that question is, let's say that we provided you the insert to put in the bill. Years ago, we were shot down on that too. For, I don't know why, we never understood why. So if we had an insert, let's say for ciclovia, since it's Friday, and we wanted to tell people, could we give you an insert that you could put in the bill to go out? And you don't have to answer the question now, but it's something that I started thinking of when you talked about redoing your billing process.
Of course, but that's definitely some information that we'll be happy to come back to you with.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Questions, comments? All right. Thank you, Mark. I appreciate it.
Next item, we have consent agenda items.
All right, this time I'd like to entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda items as listed.
I'll move to approve.
All right, we have a
Second.
motion and a
Second.
second. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 All those opposed say nay. Ayes have it, motion carries.
Next item, we have public hearings. First public hearing in action on 2023 Brownsville Roadway Capital Recovery Fee and signed recommendation letter from the Capital Improvement Advisory Committee on specifications regarding land use assumptions, capital improvement plans for roads, and calculated cost per service area and maximum collection rate per service unit.
Yes, Mayor, City Commissioners, good evening. We have one step closer to potentially a recovery fee. And so we now are in the public hearing stage. Staff is recommending to leave the public hearing open until the next meeting. This will allow staff to, one, do a better faith effort on getting the public's input, as far as also the development, making sure we have that meeting in between this meeting and the October 17th meeting. We propose a developer meeting first week of October to make sure that this is how it will impact, this is the fees if you develop a single story household or some type of retail development. So we have today Mr. Eddie Haas, our consultant, with a quick presentation. And then in your packet also, we included the letter from the committee. I don't believe the committee members are here, but I know the chairman wanted to be here. And so I'll let Mr. Eddie Haas continue. Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you very much for the opportunity to highlight the conclusion of the capital recovery fee program. 18 months of work. We've culminated in the development of a formalized report that was made available to the public at least 30 days in advance to this public hearing tonight. The noticing complies with all of the requirements from Chapter 395, Texas Local Government Code, from several perspectives. Number one, the technical elements of the conduct of study, all the required pieces to that, the development of the initial report on land use assumptions and capital improvements plan, the second report, the calculation of the cost per service unit that concluded the analysis, and then the administrative requirements. You might recall resolutions for appointing a capital improvements advisory committee, the resolutions for the public hearing, and then obviously the noticing in the newspaper and the resolution calling for the second public hearing. The Capital Improvements Advisory Committee, we have met with them 6 or 7 times now over the last 12 months. They provided a significant amount of feedback, not only through the technical development, but then more importantly, some very good discussion with regards to policy. We did have some briefings with the commissioners from March through August. Throughout the process, we had a workshop, you might recall that, back in August. There was public engagement as part of outreach. There was a mobility plan, and this work goes hand in hand with the development of the mobility plan. But there was a mobility plan meeting where there was a map and table on the capital recovery fee there for that town hall. And then obviously the mobility plan that will be coming before you for approval. So why a capital recovery fee? You're sitting at about 211,000 people now, projected to grow to 248,000 people over the next 10 years. Employment increasing from 72,000 to 101,000 over the next 10 years. With that brings growth demand on infrastructure, specifically roads, and that's what this study addresses. But more importantly, the burden of the cost of the infrastructure. Currently, you don't have a funding mechanism on that other than your bond programs, and your ratepayers pick that up for both new roads and O&M. This program addresses new capital facilities, specifically capacity enhancing capital facilities. And at the start of this process, the notion was new development should help pay their fair share of cost. And so that started the initial discussion of capital recovery. And so we've now here at the finish line on this, but basically it's a one-time fee. New development is charged. Developers will know upfront what their fees are. And depending on the type of development, more intensive development that generates more traffic, the higher the fee. The program will implement key road improvements that are identified in your mobility plan. These will be arterial or collector class facilities from that thoroughfare plan component of the multimodal plan. We did take a conservative approach to the development of the CRF. Typically, there's a credit analysis that goes with this that could define the true ceiling at what the maximum you could charge. In the alternative, you could credit the cost of the CIP by 50%. At the outset, there was discussion with staff that we would probably start low and not go above that 50%, so let's save the time and effort on that credit analysis. So there is a conservative approach that has been built into the development of this program. The Capital Improvements Advisory Committee, they had some tremendous deliberation in the final 3 or 4 meetings regarding policy and development. Not only were they concerned about implications to new development and what developers are going to have to contribute as part of the development process, but more importantly, they recognize the importance of the implication to the residents, your taxpayer, and who's going to pay for this infrastructure. They made some recommendations with regards to the start of the program. They're recommending a delayed start by 12 months. 2 reasons. One, being developer friendly, gets projects through the process that are in now. And then secondly, a lot of internal processes for ramp up in your development and permitting to get that staff all up and running for the start of the program. They are recommending a separate collection rate for residential and non-residential, $2,000 per dwelling unit or per lot, if it's a case of the dwelling unit on one lot. And in non-resident, I'm sorry, it's $2,000 per dwelling unit with a 5% increase per year up to the mandated programmatic update, which is in 5 years. At that point, there'll be a reconsideration on collection rate for residential. And the non-residential side, 25% of maximum for each individual road service areas. There's 19 service areas in the program. They're recommending 25% of max across the board with a 5% increase per year till that first mandated update, in which policy discussion would be to review that and then as part of the update, make those types of revisions. They did identify several exemptions that they thought were important, exemptions and incentives. From a residential perspective, they felt that residential development that is now 80% complete, that the remaining 20% would be exempt from capital recovery fee. But they also put a new spin on it. They said that to kind of incentivize development to get projects done, they said if projects are 80% complete within 5 years of start, then the remaining 20% could be exempt. So that's some incentive to get the projects finished. So that was really unique recommendation there. Mixed-use workforce housing. For those types of developments, mixed-use developments where there's some workforce housing and at least a certain percentage is used for workforce housing, 25%, then there will be an exemption of up to 25% of the capital recovery fee for that development. Legacy businesses that have been here in Brownsville at least 5 years and they're going through an expansion of their current building facility, that the expansion would be exempt from capital recovery fee. And then finally, all development within the historic downtown Brownsville would be exempt, kind of in line with some of the strategic, the pillars of encouraging growth and development within the downtown historic district. There's a specific map that identifies the boundaries of that downtown historic district. You might recall, as part of the initial public hearing process, that first public hearing, we had the land use assumptions, the forecast of how we see growth and development occurring over the 10 years. We looked at population and employment, primarily because of the different travel characteristics of traffic from residential and non-residential. 37,500 persons coming to Brownsville over the next 10 years, 30,000 employees over the next 10 years, generates a significant amount of traffic that'll require improvements by way of a capital improvements plan. The CIP that's been identified is $565 million of improvements. And this is the thoroughfare plan component only. And this piece was developed as part of the mobility planning effort, but in consideration with other modal elements. Even though the CRF only addresses roads, because there's some transit improvements, there's active transportation improvements, the road component has been sized adequately to address 10-year growth. And the projects identified in the CIP were identified for incorporation into the CRF. We have about 130 projects. 90 of those are new roadways altogether, and the remaining 40 of those are widenings. You've got a 2-lane road. Your thoroughfare plan calls for 4-lane. It's the additional 2 lanes to those projects. Will all of these be built in 10 years? Probably not, but the monies that are brought into CRF bank accounts will be used to fund projects that are in each service area. Of the $565 million with that 50% credit, the max we might even contemplate is $282,000. Of that, 197 is attributable to new development. That comes straight from that land use assumptions calculation. So that's what the program will bring in over 10 years based on the growth rates of population and employment, and then the recovery, the cost per service unit at the maximum level. At a 25% level, obviously it would be 25% of that identified number. This is a summation of the technical calculation, gets to the bottom line highlighted in the green column. What's the cost per service unit by service area? This is the 50% ceiling, even though the advisory committee has recommended a collection rate of 25%. What this does is identifies what is that ceiling that you could go to if you wanted to collect at a higher rate than what the advisory committee recommended to you all. The far right column is the actual cost. Since we're crediting the program at 50%, somebody is going to be picking up that cost. That will be your tax base. You might recall the benchmarking that we conducted. This kind of helped as part of the deliberation process to decide collection rates. We ran sample scenarios, 4 different land use scenarios. We gauged Brownsville relative to other communities that have capital recovery programs, but that aided the advisory committee in their deliberation process for collection rates of residential and non-residential development. To Kind of recap, the bottom line from the advisory committee is yes, they believe that capital recovery is appropriate, and now is the time to initiate the program, subject to a 12-month delayed start, highlighting some of the implementation items that I just identified and covered. Those were the policy recommendations. You might recall their first recommendation was approval of the land use assumptions in CIP, which you did as part of the public hearing. Then they're recommending the cost per service unit calculation as appropriate, and it meets all the technical requirements of 395. And then finally, their policy recommendations as part of that letter. With that, that is my presentation of the capital recovery program for roads. I'm available to answer any questions you might have with regards to the program.
I have just a quick question on your the list of exemptions. You mentioned mixed-use workforce housing. Can you define what that is?
Yeah, so it would be in a mixed-use development that has residential as part of that development, if at least 25% of that residential component is dedicated for housing for professionals that need housing for any of your various industries, whether it's high tech. But it also could meet some of your federal requirements for public housing. But for the most part, the idea is the your professional sectors. And the advisory committee, these are their recommendations to you all. It's within your purview to take those under advisement, and you all will make the final deliberation there.
Thank you. The questions or comments? This is a public hearing. If there's anyone here that wishes to address the commission on this item, please state your name for the record.
My name is Dennis Sanchez. I'm here on behalf of Madera Properties. And I just stumbled onto this study not too long ago and read it from cover to cover. It's quite long, quite detailed. But I believe that there may be some conflict between that and the way certain people are developing real property, like through TERSs. I'm just going to use our property as an example. We are putting in all the arterial and all the collector roads. And none of the projected projects that are within our zone, as set out in the study, would ever even connect or intersect with any of our arterial or collector roads. So essentially, the way I look at it, we're paying for it twice. We're putting up the money to develop, for instance, right now on our arterial road, it's 6 lanes plus 2 left-hand turn lanes. And so we're putting all the money up front now. And so we don't really understand how, we just think that this could be refined a little bit to try to make a distinction between whether or not a developer is doing their share up front as opposed to on the back end. And so I sort of welcome when I heard that they were suggesting this be postponed for an extra 30 days, because I think there are probably several developers that would like to sit down with the city and discuss the specific problems that they have and see if it can become getting a better view. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Dennis.
If I may, just to clarify a little bit too, there is a difference between the pictures and impact fees. And so we'll provide that analysis to you all, but I just want to make that clear.
Just wanted to provide some feedback here with regards to the comments. So the capital recovery fee is aimed at off-site impact. Development comes in, they're required to put on-site roads. A road in residential development, you got to have roads to get to your residential lots. That's part of on-site improvements. So the CRF is aimed at the off-site impact. Well, how does my development impact roads across town? Well, that's why there's service areas that are no larger than 6 miles, so that we're quantifying the impact on the network within that 6-mile boundary. Yes, there will be an impact off-site. If you think about home to work trip, it's probably more than 4 or 5 miles to your work. You're impacting a series of roads. So this program is predicated on a system impact basis. Okay. Yes, there are. If a developer is paying for roads that is on the capital recovery or the thoroughfare plan, there will be credits against the capital recovery fee. But we look forward to discussing for answering their questions as part of that process.
If there's no one else that wishes to address the commission, I'll entertain a motion to close.
Oh, we're leaving it open, Mayor.
We're leaving it open?
Do we need a motion to officially leave it open until October 17th?
I'm sorry, what was the question?
Since the recommendation from multimodal transport is, staff recommends leaving the public hearing open to a date specific, October 17th?
Yes, you would have a motion to um, leave the, basically leave the public
hearing.
hearing open until the next meeting, October 3rd or 17th.
Well, this one, the recommendation is October 17th?
Correct.
The second
meeting in October 17th.
Very good.
And then I would say 5 PM.
That works. So I'll make a motion to leave the public hearing open to a date specific, being 5 PM on October 17th, 2023.
Second.
All right, we have a motion, the second. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Ayes have it, motion carries.
Thank you.
Next public hearing in action on first reading on ordinance number 2023-898-II, and ordinance amending Chapter 74, Parks and Recreation of the City Code of Ordinances by readopting Section 74-18, Local Standards of Care for the City Parks and Recreations Departments, Children's Recreation Programs, in dealing with related matters.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and City Commission. My name is Damaris McGlone. I'm the Parks and Recreation Director for the City of Brownsville. And with me, I have Laura Holbrook, my Recreation and Community Inclusion Coordinator. This is a requirement by the state that we readopt this ordinance annually. And so this is just to comply with that. It is for our children's recreation programs, and it has terms that we include in the ordinance for program administration, program rules, monitoring, required supervision, employee requirements, our facility operation and the physical environment, and physical and health and medication standards. And we cannot state that we are a childcare facility. We need to advertise that we are not a childcare facility when we advertise our programs. To give you some high-level overage of what we cover, our participants' age groups. So we have a ratio that is required to be listed. And for ages 5 to 11, it is a 1:15 ratio, 1 being the adult, 15 being the children. And for ages 12 to 17, a 1:20 ratio. We compared with other cities throughout the state, because all Texas cities, if you have a program like we do in recreation, you're required to have this. And they range from a 1:20 as low as to a 1:10 a ratio group. And then Laura was also working with the Valley cities, and she found that there was as high as 1:25, but most were in the 1:20, 1:10 range. So we're consistent with that across the state. Many cities do not have a ratio for participants with a disability. I know that the city of Austin does. And so we do not go to one-on-one care, but we will reduce a ratio as much as 1:4. And for ages 5 to 12 and ages 13 to 17, a 1:8 ratio. We also require 40 hours of training must include CPR, first aid, and AED for those that are working with this vulnerable population. We also found that our required hours of training are higher than everyone else that we compared across. So the highest we found was 25 hours of training were required. Many were around 8 to 10. So we have a very high standard of training that we implement for our youth programs. Health and medication, we have these guidelines that we will supervise ill or injured participants. If they are unwell, we will separate them from others and call a parent to come pick up if they're at 100.4 degrees Fahrenheit. We limit illness to prevent and make sure that the participant is comfortable if they're at risk. Of course, if there's an acute illness, we will call emergency services. We do not dispense medication. We did notice that a lot of cities throughout the state do have that as part of their offerings. It is something that our staff haven't felt comfortable with, but we're going to look into that our next year around to see if that's something that we want to do and engage our community on that. And do you have any comments or questions?
All right, I'll open it up to any comments or questions from the commission. All right, this is a public hearing. If there's anyone here that wishes to address the commission on this item. If not, I'll entertain a motion to close.
Move to close.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Ayes have it. Public hearing now closed.
Move to approve.
We have a motion to approve and a second. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Ayes have it. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Item number 3, public hearing and action on first reading on ordinance number 235-2023-020 to rezone from residential transition and light industrial to commercial corridor to allow a commercial plaza and multifamily development for lots 2 and 3, Block 2, Dana 802 subdivision, Section 2, located at 3271 Ruben Torres.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, Commissioners. So the request is to rezone to commercial corridor. The current zoning is residential transition and light industrial. It has a dual zoning. The proposed use is a commercial plaza and multifamily development, and the property is fronting Ruben M. Torres Boulevard. The overall development is composed of lots 2 and 3 of Dana 802 subdivision. This is the 200-foot buffer map. There were 13 May lots and 0 written opposition. This is a zoning map. To the north, there is residential single family, residential transition to the west, light industrial to the east, commercial corridor to the south. And P&Z did recommend the approval to rezone from residential transition and light industrial to commercial corridor.
Just to confirm that strip on the west side, that's an access road?
Yes, it's part of Lot 3. It was platted that way to create access for the property.
So it'll have a commercial plaza and then in the back duplexes or apartments or,
That's correct. They're looking at townhomes.
and there was no opposition when they wrote back to your,
No opposition.
Questions, comments? All right, this is a public hearing. If there's anyone here that wishes to address the commission on this item.
Move to close public hearing.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to close the public hearing. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Ayes have it. Public hearing now closed.
Move to approve.
All right, we have a motion to approve. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Ayes have it. Motion carries.
Item number 4, public hearing and action on first reading on ordinance number 235-2023-021-S to request a specific use permit to allow a freight terminal in agricultural zoning designation for 6.8 acres out of Lot 4, Block A, Barreda Gardens subdivision located at 554 Runnels Road, Olmito, Texas.
So this request is a specific use permit. Originally, the applicant didn't want to rezone. However, staff did advise that it would be better to run this as a specific use permit to not change the base zone, because for a freight terminal, light industrial is required within the area, and we'll show you on the map. There are residential uses to the west of the property, large estate homes. So we just thought it would be better to run it this way. So as mentioned, it is a specific use permit. The current zoning is agricultural, and the base zoning would remain as is if the specific use permit is approved. The proposed use is a freight terminal, and it is fronting Runnels Road. This is the 200-foot buffer map. There were 5 man lots and 0 written opposition. You can't see it within this map the way it's zoomed in, but like I said, to the west, there are single-family homes on large estate lots. And so the primary zoning within the area is agricultural zoning. This is a proposed site plan. And PMV did approve to grant the specific use permit to allow the freight terminal. Staff did propose to add conditions similar to what we do with used car lots, to just have everything operating within the property to protect any residential uses that are nearby. We did sit down with the applicant and they agreed to these conditions. Questions?
Just to confirm, there's a distribution operation next door to this?
Yes, there is.
Why did PNC approve it if it's not consistent with the land use?
Well, they thought that because it is an area that's mainly undeveloped and because there already is a freight use next door, it basically is a clean slate, a property that can be used for something, and also because it has access to the expressway, that it would be adequate.
Unless residential fills in.
Right.
Would we consider that, though, if we were thinking long-term? Would we ever be at a position where we'd want to rezone that agricultural to be residential along the frontage?
I think if I'll answer that, I think what this is, when you start going from agricultural use to defining, commercial or other uses, that's an indicator that we need to update our future land use map for consistency and really what is that vision for that corridor. And I think that's going to be the recommendation for our upcoming next fiscal year is to put that money aside to be able to do the foot. Unfortunately, this year we're going to run by these, but you may want to consider and maybe we can do some sort of analysis what we're seeing in that area and what that recommendation can be from staff. But that's the whole point of saying we're growing beyond the edge of the city and we really need to define what that vision is growing out.
And what type of distribution is next door right now? I know it used to be Valley Beverage back in the day for Miller Lite. So I know there was a lot of truck traffic, lots of distribution in and out. What is it that they distribute today?
Shell products.
Okay. Sure, I have seen that.
All right, any other questions, comments? All right, this is a public hearing. If there's anyone here that wishes to address the commission on this item.
I'll move to close.
All right, we have a motion to close. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and second. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Ayes have it. Public hearing now closed.
I'll move to approve.
All right, we have a motion to approve. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
I have a question.
Sure.
If we approve it, it includes the conditions that staff recommended?
Well, I think you would have to make.
Do I need to mention that in my motion, Counselor?
It's assumed that if the agenda item has a specific use, exceptions in the ordinance, if you're adopting the ordinance as staff recommends, then it is included. But for safety purposes, yeah, of course, you can reiterate everything.
I'll amend my motion to be, move to approve in accordance with staff recommendations.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Ayes have it. Motion carries.
Item number 5, public hearing in action on first reading on ordinance number 235-2023-022-S to request a specific use permit to allow a used car lot in a traditional neighborhood corridor zoning designation for lots 6, 7, 22, and 23, block 64, Parton's addition to the city of Brownsville, located at 1236 South Expressway.
So again, this request is similar as the previous. It's a specific use permit. The current zoning is traditional neighborhood corridor, and the proposed use is a car lot fronting South Expressway. This is a 200-foot buffer map. There were 22 mailouts and 0 written opposition. And as you can see from the aerial view, to either side of the property, all the lots are vacant all the way to 12th Street and 13th Street. To the rear, there are residential uses. However, there is an alley that creates a buffer to an extent. This is a zoning map. The zoning that predominates is traditional neighborhood corridor. There is also traditional neighborhood to the south, to the southwest. And this is the proposed site plan. Again, they are incorporating the notes or the recommendations that staff provided just to provide some sort of protection to adjacent single-family uses. And P&Z did recommend the approval to grant the specific use permit following the conditions of having everything or all the operations within the property.
Just worry for the traffic, more so on that area. It's already very congested and cars going in and out. I myself have driven there occasionally and it's pretty scary out there, so I don't know. That was be my only concern is traffic.
Yes, and just to address that concern, staff did propose the condition of having all the operation within the property, any unloading, and for them to avoid, because there are some car lots that we have come across that will unload their freight vehicle on, that will close off a lane and unload on the frontage.
Martin, when we approve these, do they also require for them to abide by like the law and make sure that any work that they do is behind visibility of the public? Do they still adhere by those if they open up car lots?
Can you repeat the question?
When we approve car lots like this, do
Yes.
they still have to adhere by like having the wall and doing work behind?
Yes, yes, they do.
That's my only concern, because I know that right around that whole green area, I think there's a community garden down the road as well, and I just wouldn't want there to be a lot of cars just along the corridor, but
Right.
if we can have them behind site.
Right, so like I said, everything would be within the property to where it doesn't obscure any of the visibility.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, and I like the recommendations on this. I think they're consistent with what you guys have done before, and I see that included all types of work on vehicles must be done within enclosed areas. That's excellent. And I know in looking back from probably the early 2000s up to now, almost everything from 11th all the way to International Boulevard in this area has been predominantly used car lots. So this seems consistent with what we've had there before and very consistent with what is across the expressway from them as well.
All right, this is a public hearing. If there's anyone here that wishes to address the commission on this item?
I'll move to close.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay.
Nay.
Ayes. Public hearing. We have a nay for public hearing. Ayes have it, public hearing is now closed. I'll entertain a motion on this item.
Move to approve.
We have a motion to approve. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Not all those in favor, please say aye.
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 All those opposed say nay.
Nay.
Yoli, can we get a roll call vote, please?
Yes, sir. Commissioner Martinez?
Aye.
Commissioner Macias?
Nay.
Commissioner Villarreal?
Aye.
Mayor?
Aye.
Commissioner Gowan?
Aye.
Commissioner Garland?
Aye.
2 nays.
All right, ayes have it, motion carries.
Next item, we have item number 6, public hearing and action on first reading on ordinance number 235, 2023-023 to rezone from agriculture to residential transition and commercial corridor to allow a multifamily development and commercial plaza for 18.62 acres out of El Jardín re-subdivision, lots 17 to 32, block 116, share 29, Espiritu Santo Grant, located on FM 511.
This request is very similar to the first item that was presented. However, the property does have one single zoning currently. It is agricultural. They are proposing to rezone to residential transition to accommodate the multifamily use and the commercial corridor, and to commercial corridor to accommodate the commercial plaza. The property is fronting FM 511. This is a 200-foot buffer map. There were 10 mailouts and 0 written opposition. And just to point out, we have not received the formal plat yet, but this is how the lots will look. The commercial lot in red is the one that will be rezoned to commercial corridor if approved, and the one in yellow will be residential transition for the multifamily use. This is a zoning map. The ETJ is to the north. There is agricultural again to the north, northwest, residential single family to the south, west, commercial corridor, light industrial, and residential transition to the south. And P&Z did recommend the approval to rezone from agricultural to residential transition and commercial corridor. Questions?
All right, this is a public hearing. If there's anyone here that wishes to address the commission on this item? Not, I'll entertain a motion to close public.
Move to close.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Ayes have it, public hearing now closed.
Move to approve.
We have a motion to approve. Do you have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Ayes have it, motion carries.
Item number 7, public hearing in action on first reading on ordinance number 235, 2023-025 to rezone from residential suburban to commercial corridor to allow a general retail store for lots 1, 2, and 3, Block 1, Palmetto Grove subdivision located at 7954 Southmost Road.
So this is a request to upzone from residential suburban to commercial corridor. The proposed use is a general retail store. To be specific, it's going to be a Dollar General. The property is fronting Southmost Road. This is a 200-foot buffer map. There were 26 mailouts and 0 in opposition. And as you can see, the development will be composed of 3 lots. And just to point out, because they are adjacent to single-family homes, the residential adjacency requirements do apply, so they will have to install a masonry wall, a 6-foot masonry wall along that shared property line. And there will have to be a 40-foot buffer in between the structure and, again, the property line that is shared with the single-family use. Up to this point, they have submitted the preliminary site plan, and it does comply with these requirements.
I'm sorry, what did you say they were going to build there?
A Dollar General.
On 3 things or just one Dollar General?
It's one structure that's going to overlap the 3 lots. This is a zoning map. To the north, there is residential single family. To the south, residential suburban and agricultural. The ETJ is also to the north. And P&Z did recommend the approval to rezone from residential suburban to commercial corridor. Questions?
I had a quick question. I'm aware of that area. It has a bus stop in the front. Do we require anything from the businesses to help have a good, bus stop in front?
There really isn't anything established, but we can take recommendations if it's something that you're interested in providing input. We do provide or require pedestrian connection, so that anyone who arrives at that bus stop can safely ingress into the property and into the establishment.
I think that's something that we could explore as a city and maybe work with them, because that's one of the farthest bus stops that we have in Southmost in District 1. And that's the last stop. So I think maybe we can get the business to also get on board. Maybe we could build a nice bus shelter for them out there.
All right, this is a public hearing. If there's anyone here that wishes to address the commission on this item? I'll entertain a motion to close public hearing.
Move to close.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Ayes have it. Public hearing now closed. I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Move to approve.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Ayes have it. Motion carried.
Item number 8, public hearing and action on first reading on ordinance number 2023-1731 to approve a budget amendment for fiscal year 2023.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Commissioners. My name is Miguel Cavazos. I am the Budget Officer for the City of Brownsville. We will be presenting the end-of-year budget amendment. So back in May 2022, the City Commission approved the restoration and renovation of the CMD complex. So the funding was supposed to come from the PEG fees, which is sitting in a restricted fund. Now the actual expenses being incurred are sitting in the capital project fund. So we're just requesting to do a amendment transfer from restricted funds to the capital project fund. We are also requesting up to $200,000 from general fund to fund the operating expenses under the motor vehicle parking station fund. Parking system fund. This is just in order for the motor vehicle fund stay in break even, stay in the black. And that's what our budget amendment is. Do you guys have any questions?
I have a quick question on the parking meters. How are we going forward? I know that there was a lag on getting the system up and running 100%, but how are we budget-wise?
For fiscal year 24, we did anticipate a transfer from general fund to play it safe, so we did budget for that.
Yeah, so, Roberto, I don't know if you're gonna come up and give this, the updated status on that.
Yeah, good evening. So this is the last week where we testing all the parking stations that finally are up and running. We identified with traffic team some issues with some parts, but we got them going. Also, as you know, we stated before, the enforcement is now live. The division that is in charge of it is the parking enforcement from PD. They're issuing citations and also making sure that it's working properly. So we just spoke this evening, and we're gonna kind of keep tracking the reporting. We should be back in the decent numbers when it comes to the revenue, but all the things that we discussed in the previous meeting, they're now addressed, and we're hopefully this week or next week having the sign off for the final punch list and making sure that the parking stations are well self-sustained, and then with enforcement, continue with enforcement.
Thank you.
I think there were some things between the glitches of Wi-Fi and parts, and then also the education part, and then also, more education, and then the ordinance update. It was more than we had anticipated, and so that's why we're coming back with you with that gap. But we will be closely monitoring that performance.
Any other questions or comments in the commission? This is a public hearing. If there's anyone here that wishes to address the commission on this item. All right, I'll entertain a motion to close public hearing. Oh, wait, Pastor, come forward.
One of the other meetings, I don't know if that's been changed or not, but in one of the meetings you had mentioned that if someone did not pay, that their car would be towed. We're living in a city where someone can drive with no driver's license, no insurance, et cetera, and their car is not towed. The expense of getting your car back when it is towed is substantial to most of our residents. Secondly, you mentioned education. This thing's still a mystery to me is how you're supposed to pay it. And I'm guessing that's the case from most of our city. And I think we need to look at that closer, both the education side of it. I see the thing over there. I don't know what you're supposed to do with it. I don't know how it relates to what space. And I'm guessing most of our population is in the same boat I am. Secondly, I think we need to look at the enforcement a little closer as to how extreme we're going to get with it. And I would much prefer a boot than a towing as far as the expense it would be on the population. So for what it's worth, I think we need to look at that.
Thank you, Pastor.
Yeah, just for clarification, we stick to the booting.
Yeah, I
the
think
fight
we,
for them.
we spoke about that at one point, and there was not going to be towing. It's going to be if you don't pay, I think you said 3 times or 12 or what, 3? Thank you.
I'll move to close the public hearing.
Second.
All right, we have a motion to close and a second. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Ayes have it. Public hearing now closed.
Move to approve.
All right, we have a motion to approve. Do we have a second? We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 All those opposed say nay. Ayes have it. Motion carries.
Next, we have items for individual consideration. Item number 1, consideration and possible action regarding the review of La Posada Task Force information and recommendations for the future development of the park, including the proposed dissolution of the task force as outlined in Resolution number 2023-020-D, and authorizing such other actions necessary or convenient to carry out this resolution.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and City Commission. My name is Damaris McGlone. I'm the Parks and Recreation Director for the City of Brownsville. On February 7th, you guys convened in this task force, and we, with 5 specific tasks, was to finalize the proposed amenities for design renderings, as we had gone through a community engagement process of nearly 500 people. Establish a budget based on those selected amenities, research and seek funding sources to apply for grants to fund the project, and determine annual maintenance and operation costs of those budget amenities, and then finally to present this report to the commission for consideration. And for the record, La Posada Park is at 1325 La Posada Drive in the southmost neighborhood, District 1. We want to make a special thanks to all the La Posada Task Force members and the city commissioners for appointing the task force. They had key expertise to inform our department and our staff about subject matter expertise, and their recommendations really helped us and will help us for future planning efforts, especially as we seek funding sources for that. And those areas in particular were for history, architecture, botany, and waterways. Some of the proposed things is initially when we went out for the plan is we figured that this would need to be a phased funded plan. And so we were going to start at the Resaca edge. And so we would have the minimum intrusion, and so we could phase out towards the street. And that's how the initial funding was proposed in those phases. After meeting with Lupe from PUB, he was talking about with the work that USACE, the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, and PUB already has ongoing there, that any bird blinds or decks or anything along the Resaca bank has to go through a special approval process for that. And so that would be, because of the work that they have going on there, that would extend that timeline. So it'll probably be the last things that we do for this project. And so some of the recommendations were to rephase these components and look at them in more of categories rather than this tentative phase that we had just the consultant Megamorphosis had put together. And then just as a reminder, these budget cost estimates were inflated due to the volatile market at the time. And so while it's a $3 million to $5 million range, it is definitely overinflated for those. And so I just wanted to bring back that we have, as part of our department and our master plan, some park design principles. And so for this park, we're addressing the history, botany, architecture. The classification for this park is going to be used for all ages. Maintenance standard, it would be a tier 1 park. And so we've got 3 tiers to our park system. So Dean Porter Park is a tier 1, Washington Park. We might have some parks that have, it's less frequent mowing, maybe the trash pickup isn't as daily, it's weekly routines, things like that. And it would be a special use park. And that category, there's definitions in our master plan, and one that does not fall within a typical park classification due to its historical, cultural, or because it's a social site and its unique offerings. And so it is the aim for the park user to be able to experience the unique historical, architectural, cultural, and botanical characteristics of the park through education programs, appropriate passive and active activities that safely advocate for the continued preservation and conservation of the site while stimulating the neighborhood microeconomy through grassroots style of entrepreneurship, perhaps farmers markets, artisans markets, et cetera, to establish a sense of empowerment and ownership of the park. And so as we go through that, we follow our master plan as we develop future parks. The committee, the task force reviewed some of the amenities, and initially there was no fundamental changes, except as when they engaged with stakeholders, there was a recommendation to add another driveway with potential parking on near the urban garden, so that they could make sure that, or the urban farm, to make sure that that drive and to accommodate for the needs there. And so budgeting was adjusted for those numbers. Let's see. There's really zero opposition to the community member desired amenities. Our department will make sure that the proposed amenities meet with the purpose of the park. And the recommendations for some amenity locations they recommend different locations. So where a bridge was proposed, just in the rendering, was our task force members specified that they thought the best use because of the physical nature of the Resaca and where these things are. So such as the bridge, a kayak launch, nature observation decks, and the plaza space. We had those recommendations from task force members as well. And this is just the opinion of probable cost from Megamorphosis. So we did go through that. They're a reputable firm who prepared their opinion on those things. And I had mentioned the inflated costs, the adjusted budget ranking and phasing, and the JAGU, Resaca, and Army Corps of Engineer process that we would need to do. The City Commission did ask that we bring back what the M&O, the maintenance and operation budget, could look like. This is at the high end. Of course, this could scale back. This would include, because of the botanical nature, because this could be like a world birding center and, some world botanical locations of the tourism draw is to have a horticulturist as part of that. And then of course, someone clerical and some labor work there. So those personnel costs could change, but that would be about, based on what we have on our pay and grade, would be about $180,000 for that. Based on our existing operations for the similar services, materials and supplies, would it be about $42,000 per year? $6,000 for maintenance of buildings and structures if we were able to put a building in there for like a nature and science center. And then different miscellaneous services, just that's communications, rental of equipment, advertising, that type of stuff, would be $12,000 for an estimated total of $241,000 of there. And then we also looked at some potential capital outlay and CIP, projecting 15, 20 years into the future of what that commitment would look like. And so obviously in about 20 to 30 years, unless really good care could take on it, would be the replacement of a roof. We would have to replace wood decking on some of these things if that was the route that we went with, rather than like recycled plastic. That's a higher budget on the front end cost. And then of course, exercise equipment, playground equipment, and things like that. And that would range between that 5 to 20 year timeframe, depending on what that amenity was. This task force also did work with our grants team to put together an application for the local park grant resolution. We did get this governing body to approve that resolution, but we're going to apply at the August 1st, 2024, which does require the 50-50 matching funds. We have researched other additional funding opportunities, including approaching potentially BCIC for that. And also, we're going to look into our Parks Master Plan has funding opportunities such as the Coors Pure Water Grant, some World Wildlife, and Community Forest and Open Space, Congestion and Mitigation of Air Quality Program Funds, American Hiking and Society. So we'll work with our grants team to see if we can supplement some of these things and hopefully reduce the city commitment or the match through other grants by that August timeframe. So we have our work cut out for us. Moving ahead, the task force at their very last meeting did recommend to dissolve the task force. They felt that they had provided their expertise and information in reviewing this and had a pretty shovel-ready project. And so they recommend to dissolve this task force. Do you have any questions, comments?
I have a question. On the previous slide, the funding sources recommended in the master plan. The master plan is a long time ago.
Yes.
Those funding sources cannot be the most up to date.
No, but we'll investigate more of those and and we'll go through those, but yes.
I have another comment. 2 weeks ago, we spoke about quality of life through BCIC. I think these are the kind of projects that we should be putting this money into. So I think you should reach out to them with a 50-50 grant. I mean, it's a no-brainer. So hopefully you can speak to them on this because the 50-50 match is great.
So with the dissolution of the task force, then who would it fall to get this over the goal line? Is it just the department or will it be the Parks Advisory Board? How would that work?
We would always keep our Parks Advisory Board involved as much as they want to be. So we're happy to include them as much as they want to be included. And yes, department staff would be able to spearhead this the rest of the way.
Good. And as you guys get more into the development of it, I'd like to sit down with you guys to look at the infrastructure. I did like the notes that you guys mentioned there about stimulating the neighborhood microeconomy through grassroots style entrepreneurship, like farmers markets, artisan markets, events, things of that nature. Infrastructure is very important to being able to support that. And I think we've seen that even at Linear Park, when, especially during holidays, when we've got outlets that aren't functioning or lack of access to certain things, the infrastructure is going to be key to really execute successfully on that. I think that's a great direction to be going. Let's make sure we build it right. So I'd like to sit down with you guys as we look at that.
I think it's commendable, incredibly commendable that the task force did pay attention to what the community wanted in an area that is often not, historically has not always had a voice in what they might prefer in their neighborhoods. And I think the architects who did the outreach did an excellent job. So I commend and hope very much that be always etched in the plan.
Absolutely. We had amazing task force members, very passionate and committed, and have volunteered many, many hours of their personal time to this project in particular. And so we can't thank them enough.
To echo the commissioner's concern, now that it's going to be turned or will be under the Parks Advisory, what I'll ask is just in the meantime, while we continue to build the plan and get there, just maintenance, make sure that everything's watered, that everything's taken care of at the park. I think that we need to preserve as much as we can until we invest. And that's all I ask from that we keep on that.
I think we're also looking at technical assistance related because the budget is between 3 and 5 million. We really need to tighten that specifically if we're going to go for matching funds and to understand how much to request in matching funds. So we'll do a little more technical assistance with regard to tightening that up as we go for funding, and also the maintenance and operations.
Thank you.
Did, in the budgeting process, do we include any matching funds? I know we have a matching fund amount, like, but it's a general category right in our budget for matching grants?
Well, I mean, it was, I would say what we're going to look at it through surplus fund. So as you know, we're going to do 2 mid-budget amendments. We're going to track our sales tax. And the good thing about these projects is the matching funds, it's one-time matching fund. So our sales tax numbers have been very, very robust, let's say. So we think by December, we'll have a good idea of what that matching fund can be. And so we're going to be, that's why we're instituting 2 budget amendments this year to be able to track it and use this in December, where we are in December. And that will still be enough time to be able to, the Texas Wildlife Grant is in
Correct.
August, right?
August 1st.
August, so that's give us ample time to be able to.
Mayor, we also have $3 million in BCIC for quality of life.
I totally agree. No, I'm just asking, what are the total options on the table, right? And I just wanted to make that clear, but I definitely want to pursue BCIC first before we go into city funds.
What is the Parks and Rec Department maintenance and operations total budget?
It's an estimated 10 million per year for, we've got that includes the sports park,
That includes the sports park?
golf center, the event center, parks and trails. We have about 40 parks and 37 miles of trail. The recreation and events, our aquatics programs, and the Old City Cemetery, and our athletics programs.
How does this M&O budget compare? Like, it's one park, approximately $200,000. How much does that compare to another one park besides the sports park?
The largest budget, and these are estimates, is for the parks and trails, and that's about a $2.5 million budget for the care and maintenance of the parks. And so that aligns, the maintenance of it without the staffing aligns there. What we have to decide is does this park warrant that staffing level for what it can be? And so, and what is there? And so that, because that's at 180, you take that 180 and it's equitable. It's right there.
Sure. No, I was just asking,
Yeah,
curious.
absolutely. Yes.
I would say that there's a difference between enterprise funds, which is, what we try, sports park and golf center, and then parks, right? Because in those cases, we track them differently because we have user fees. They're a different animal, right? We have user fees for golf, we have user fees for a sports park. It's tracked differently and separately than our parks and trails, which are not generating and shouldn't generate income, but they have a great value in our community. So I would say, let me get back to you on that because there's a lot of numbers thrown around, and so I'd rather.
Yeah, no, I'm not gonna hold anybody to, I just wanted to get my head around, like,
These are good estimates.
I'm all for parks, trust me.
Yeah,
I was just wondering, like, $200,000
It's nothing.
approximately adding to, it, is that gonna take away from anyone else, or is that just something that we're going to add?
I think
to
we
the-
would work to add to it. What we're gonna do this year as part of our work plan for parks is understanding the synergies between how we're utilizing staff and equipment throughout all our parks.
Sure.
What we did with Public Works is that we had, crews here and crews there and mowers there and mowers there. And then what we did is we consolidated. So we went through a pilot program, but we need to complete that because sometimes what we're finding is we have mowers here, mowers there, and maintenance here, maintenance there. And so what are the synergies of bringing that together? And I think what I find is not going to be a per park person, like this person only does this park. We're going to look at crews, right? Crews that can really, with that equipment, really maximize efficiencies in equipment. And that's on our work plan for parks to be able to improve operations and efficiencies. It's all long-winded way to respond to your questions.
No,
But
no,
really-
it wasn't really a question. I just wanted to make sure we weren't gonna shortchange, like, if the M&O total budget's 10 million, and then this is an amazing project, right? And then you're gonna shortchange
No, I'm
other
sure we're
parks
gonna
for the
look at.
maintenance and operations of this. It's just that we plan that that's now gonna be something that we're adding for the future period, because I don't think that we planned that with the sports park, right?
Yes, sir.
If there are
If
no
there's
further.
not, if there's nothing else, I move to approve.
Second.
Sorry. Any further discussion? If not, all
I
those in
do
favor,
have,
please say aye.
oh, no, no, I'm good.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
No, I'm good.
All right, you sure?
Yeah.
All right. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Ayes have it, motion carries.
Thank you.
Next item, we have consideration and action to approve the Greater Brownsville Incentives Corporation fiscal year 2024 budget.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. It's a pleasure to be standing in front of you for the first time, even though it's an auspicious occasion that we are presenting our budget to you. I am Brett Gardell. I am the new CEO for GBIC, and going into week 6 here, and we have been flying every single week, doing some great things on behalf of the city. So thank you for having me. Thank you for allowing me to make this presentation to you. I can certainly tell you that this presentation comes with the full support of the GBIC board and certainly our team. And I hope you all have had some opportunity to look it over. I know I've had the opportunity to meet with most of you. Commissioner Gowan, I look forward to meeting with you when we get an opportunity in the future. So without further ado, you saved the best for second to last, so we'll get through it. You have to appoint somebody to a board last. As you'll see on our budget here, the main overall commitment, I like to say that this is what we're presenting to you is very conservative with a couple of hints of aggression. And we'll talk about that in a little bit. But as you can see, it's still keeping us very well under budget to the tune of about 5.7 million. And the number that I think is most impressive for us to be able to invest back into the community sits at the bottom where we sit with a beginning fund balance of about 17 million. And with the projected sales tax that's going to come in, we're probably looking at about $20 million. And we do have some community outreach ideas to invest in the community that we'll be talking about shortly. Little pie chart that shows you our little Pac-Man here of where the money's coming from. The numbers may adjust slightly on the percentages, meaning that with the sales tax continuing to increase, we'll probably look at about a 92% sales tax and about 8% of the interest income. Either way, very, very formidable numbers coming in here, very strong and very impressive. Our commitments on our expenditure side, you will see that we keep our operating expenses right around 24-25%, so only a quarter of the overall budget. The strategic initiatives, that's where you're going to see the numbers increase, and that's because there are a lot of opportunities for us to bring in some professional people to help us, and this is where some of the aggression is going to come in that we'll talk about shortly. Our commitments are holding fairly steady. Those are all the performance agreements that we have, and we'll discuss that just in a fairly soon time period in a slide as well. Breaking it down in a comparison between this year and last year, what you'll see is that we're looking for a slight increase in salary commitments and benefits for employees last year. That's going to be offset, though, by the bonus structure that was put into place, and we can slide that over into salaries so we're competitive. I have been asked who we compete with, and I'm going to be honest with you, we don't compete with our local markets. We compete with San Antonio, Corpus Christi, Houston, Baytown, those types of communities that have port systems and inland port systems and the rest of the infrastructure. So we need to make sure that we're taking advantage of the road, rail, runway, river, and now rocket of transportation systems that we have. So we're going to compete against the big boys and we're going to go after them very strong. And I think we're going to steal business from them. On the city admin side, you'll see that the numbers flip-flopped. That was because we had a couple of employees last year that were being paid through the city. They now have rolled onto our payroll. So you'll see a slight adjustment there. The number that I like to point out, though, is certainly on the landscaping side, not ignoring the other numbers because we'll talk about them in a minute. But on the landscaping side, this is something I like to point out because even though we lease the property from the city and there's an agreement in the city with the city that they need to maintain it, the city's way too busy. We have the ability and we have some money that we can put into the young property and we want to do that. So we want to make sure that when we leave the young property one of these days, it's going to look better than when we took it over. And in the interim of that, we also want to make sure that the property is beautiful enough that we can start hosting events out there and be proud of who we are and what we do and showcase that to the folks that we bring in. A little further breakdown, you'll see what I talked about with the benefits and the city admin agreement. This is where I'm going to point out a little bit on the miscellaneous side and the professional services side, the consulting side. Those are areas wherein as we get out and we start recruiting, well, first of all, let me back up. The marketing side is something that we don't tell our story. I need to have the ability to not only tell a story, but we have to create a story. For me to do that, I have to bring in a professional firm that can help us to get all of that created. Secondarily, our website needs to be updated. We are well out of date on that, and there's a lot of metrics that we can build through a website portal nowadays that tells us who's visiting us, how long they're engaged with us, where they came from, where they're going to. Those are all services that we're not using that I want to bring to the table. And those are going to provide us with some good metric numbers that we can use as we move forward to find out who's looking at us. So as we go after them, we will know that they've already engaged with us. We just won't tell them. So you'll see that on the marketing side. Professional services, there are some firms that we definitely want to engage with because as we go out to recruit, these are the professionals that we will talk to and say, these are the specific industries that we're going after. Their job then is to find the businesses within that industry that are needing to grow, needing to expand, or possibly needing to relocate. And then they work with us to set up direct one-on-one meetings. So we're not just going out on a cold call. We are going out on legitimate business that has been presented to us by these folks. Both parties know going into it that someone is looking to relocate, and we're walking in the door saying, we want you in our community. So it's going to allow us to save our time and more effectively get out and do the recruiting that we need to do on behalf of the community. Our positions, we will have a slight increase in positions. We definitely need a marketing and communications person. Since I've been here, we have had, I want to say, at least 4 events, if not 5 events in the 6 weeks that we have not been able to showcase who we are and what we've been doing at these events because we need to have a dedicated person on staff to be able to take the pictures, Facebook Live it, or come back to the office and start posting everything on the socials. It does us no good to have any type of social media presence if we don't actually present something. So we need to bring on a person who's really going to help us out in that marketing and communications category. And what we did here is we just flipped, instead of hiring a director of recruitment, which was a listed position, we've altered that because Jerry and myself, Jerry does a fantastic job of recruiting. I am not a desk driver, I am a worker. So I'm going to get out and help sell this community. I can't do it behind a desk. So we can do the recruiting. Therefore, we don't need to hire somebody in that position. We really need somebody in marketing and communications. So we just replaced one with another, and I think that'll round out our staff very, very well as we move forward. Until we get too busy, and then we'll have to hire more. This is where the fun part begins. As I've looked around the community and we've tried to address the needs that we currently have, and we've also had direct conversations with some industry partners about the needs that we're going to have in the future. We have 720 acres that we need to build out. As a part of the marketing for that, and as a part of how we as GBIC are going to move ourselves into the future, the vision right now is to take the front part of that acreage and build what we are calling right now the Greater Brownsville Center for Excellence. What does that mean? We need Class A office space. There is no Class A office space within the city for any business to rent, let alone those that we recruit in, or for our own office space. But more importantly out of this, we need to create an investment within the community for our community. And what that means is in this space that we are going to create, we're creating a campus where we are going to attract in either one of our local educated opportunities, or we will bring in one to represent the market so we can start teaching 4-year degrees within Brownsville. The most prominent need that we have right now is in engineering. We've heard that certainly from our 2 biggest partners right now with Next Decade and Bechtel on moving forward on the types of people they need just to build at that one location. We know that there's at least 2 more locations coming online that are going to be in the petrochem or LNG fields, which are, again, also going to need master's and PhD candidates on their staff who have engineering backgrounds. It's my goal, even though it might sound different from recruitment of these types of opportunities, but it's my goal to be able to create this type of educational system within our community. We have the ability to do it. We have the property to do it on, and I think we have the vision to move forward with it. I think the other exciting part about this is we build this on the front end of our business park So we will literally walk employees in our front door. We will train them. They will walk out the back door into a job in our business park. There is no one else in America right now that I have found, and I have looked, that is doing something like this. I want us to be the first. I was told today by one of my board members, there's a location in Monterrey, Mexico that is doing this, but I said, I'm talking about in the States. I can't compare it to another country. So that's why you're seeing on the industrial park development line item an increase. Now, our local partner, UTRGV, to be honest with you, we've had some very good, very successful meetings with them about them potentially being our partner. And the space that they need would even be more aggressive than what we are thinking, which is great for us. But again, I'm not going to go into anything until we have something on paper, it's signed, and these are leases, by the way. We're not giving away space for free. We don't need to do that. So anybody that we bring on board, the educational institution that we bring in, is going to full well understand that this is about long-term visioning, long-term teaching within our community. The second piece that we want to build into our campus is also a workforce training center. One thing that I've discovered in the short time I've been here is that 40% of TSTC students come from Brownsville. Wouldn't it be awesome if we trained them here as opposed to sending them 20 miles up the road? So we have this ability where we can create this type of building, this type of box, and we can work with, I'm hopeful, TSC, for example, to come in and run this program for us. I don't care what we teach. It could be plumbing and pipe fitting. It could be AC repair. It could be welding. It could be CNC machining. I don't care. What I do care about is that we are providing the opportunities for our working folks in our city to be here, stay here, get trained here, and once again, walk right back into our development park and get a job right here in Brownsville. So we're not sending anybody away. In fact, if we do this and we do it correctly, we will attract people here. The other line items on here, just really quickly, we wanted to highlight the job and workforce development and training. That line item just has to increase based on the needs of next decade right now. They are going to continue to ramp up their employment. They will continue to need training for employees that are going to come in who don't necessarily have the skills for the job. If they're looking to have 5,000 employees working on this facility over the next 5 years, we know that training needs are going to have to be met, and that is a big part of what we do. So the increase that you're seeing in there will be going directly toward that. That's just one company. We have hundreds of other companies that we are going to get out and help. The space-related activities we wanted to put on here because we certainly wanted to let people know that we are very well aware of what has taken place. We're very well aware of the audit that presented the ideas, and we wanted to show people that it has been removed basically from our budget. And we certainly know through the legal channels that every pursuit is happening to be able to claw back any monies that we can get out of that situation. But that's been removed from our budget. Professional studies is also an area where last year, I think 250,000 in a budget line item was aggressive. That would have commanded a lot of the team's time to be out of the office training. And we don't need to go to that extent. There are a lot of, there's a lot of education that our team can pick up going through regular conferences and other local events, and certainly on the job, they're going to learn more and more every day as we engage more and more of our citizenry. So we were able to back that down to a more comfortable number, and I think 50,000 is very comfortable for what we do. We left this slide in simply because it's the only color that we have of any slide. It does showcase our business park, but as you're looking at it, all of the phases are going to change. Basically on the amenity side and probably stretching down into phase 6 by the lake, that's all going to become phase 1. I can't tell you the defined acreage as of yet because I want to make sure we get through with y'all and we get our budget approved. And then after that, I can call the engineering firm and have a meeting with them and say, legitimately, how much are we going to open up for phase 1? Phase 1 and that area up along the freeway is the easiest to build because it is the highest elevation on the site. So it will take the least amount of fill. So it will give us that opportunity to be aggressive, as I mentioned earlier, And the goal is to get out there and start moving dirt by the first quarter of next year, which I do believe we can do because we've done a lot of engineering on the property already. The environmentals have been done, at least on this front end. And right now the cleanup is happening from some of the debris that's been dumped out there. So that's basically why this slide is in there, and at least some color from all the black and white. The events that we have planned for next year are, in essence, similar to what we have this year. The only alteration might be we're still discussing whether or not we believe we have enough to showcase for the Select USA spinoff. We will probably postpone that for 2024 and bring it back in 2025 as we have next decade going vertical and some hopeful items out in our business park going vertical. And there's conversation about some other things that might be breaking ground and going vertical as well out on the port. So I don't want to bring people here just to bring them here. I want to bring them here to showcase a lot of the things that we're doing and show them the excitement and why other businesses are here. So we will probably postpone that in 2024. The BTX Developers Tour we are hosting this year, it does revolve around the Lower Valley. We are hosting it just before Thanksgiving. And Elsa is good. She's doing a fantastic job of getting this planned. We're doing something that no other development corporation has done out of this, and we are making this a family-friendly event. We want developers, we want department heads, we want you guys, city management, to be able to come out and not just take a tour and see the businesses that we're showcasing, but we also want you to be able to bring your families with you, bring your kids out with you. Because, as I tell everybody, I've never met a kid who goes to bed at night dreaming to be an economic developer. My daughter's 9 years old, doesn't even know what I do. So I want to bring her out and at least get her around people who she can talk to or see, or get on the bus and go take a tour and see what we do at the port, or obviously go by SpaceX and be able to see what happens. So she can start thinking about her future in a different way. And certainly not in economic development. I want her to go to Mars or something like that. But it's an opportunity for us to do something different and showcase who we are and have a lot of fun with it. So we'll get you the invitation on that shortly, but just be aware that we're doing something here that I think is going to be fun and set the bar for other people in the area to try to beat, and they won't. Rally in the Valley, I just want to point out, as you guys know from last week, was a massive success. 2.0 just blew it out of the water, and of course I give Carla all respect for that. That's all based on what she was able to do. We are now already planning for 3.0, and with some of the feedback that we heard, we might have to go with not only 3.0, but 3.5 next year, because it seems like more and more of the students want to get involved, and it seems like we have some other schools that we didn't get involved this year that we can venture out and bring in. So we'll see how 3.0 goes, probably in the end of the first quarter, first part of second quarter of next year when we do it. And if we're successful with that, then we'll plan another. It's great for us to do because we have this ability to take our students and put them right in front of our employers who are looking for help. And yes, it might be on an apprenticeship basis, but it still gets somebody in the door. And it still gets them that mentor or that coach or that off-site teacher to show them what the work world is like. So we're excited about that. And we also think we have some ways that we can make this successful for both the employer and the student. And we'll discuss that a little further down the road. The commitments, as I mentioned to you, they've been pretty static. We haven't had anything new that has come through. There's been some good and bad in this, and I will start off with the bad. The good is I'll start off with the good. We did reach out to a lot of businesses. We're reaching out to more. The bad is that we didn't do enough follow-up with some of the businesses that we have these agreements with, and that's why they're stagnant. We asked finance to do a historical perspective for us on this, and over the last 5 years, we've only paid out 20% of our commitments, and that's not good enough. This money does not help us. When we don't pay it out, it just rolls back into our fund balance, and it makes us look like we have all this money in the world. The goal is to get this money out to those businesses, which in turn gets out to their employees. either through training or they have the ability to hire more. So the team has direction now and more dedication to be able to get out and visit these businesses who also haven't performed by turning in the documentation that we need so we can pay them. So we want to work jointly with the businesses that we have, and certainly as we move forward on getting this money out the door. We've pledged it. We want to help them, but we need to help them help us to help them. Our goal for this year is to get at least up to 50%. If we can get 50% of our commitments done and out the door, then good for us. I would love to break that mark, but we wanted to be conservative and say, well, let's just at least go with the 50-50 mark on this and see what we can get paid. And that is the last slide. I talk fast and I run through this quick, but I am certainly open for any questions.
A couple of questions. And I look forward to sitting down with you next week. And so there are always going to be projects, and I'm not talking about multi-million-dollar projects, but things that every major entity in the city should get behind. The example I will use is the memorial tree project that we had a few months ago, putting in a grove of shade trees to commemorate those that we've lost to COVID in each of the 4 districts in the city. Now, you can say that's not about economic development. On the other hand, you can say the people who died either were employed or were the family members of someone who was employed. And I think it's important for something like that, that was all of $10,000, to be endorsed by every entity in the city, including GBIC. And you did, which I very much appreciate. Where in your budget do you allow for projects like that? Again, it's not building a huge stadium, it's not creating tens of thousands of jobs, but it is doing something good for the city to show your support.
Certainly. I'm going to answer that in a long manner. I've been doing this for 16 years. I've worked in economic development in almost every realm. Whatever you want me to support, I have the experience in and I can help support. The city manager and I have discussed that. So anything that we can do as part of our organization, we will absolutely do to get behind. Our motto is, how can we help? That's what we've changed it to. If somebody calls our office and asks us a question, whoever answers that phone takes ownership of that item until we discover either we can help or we discover the right person who can help that person, and we pass it off to them. So we will always help. We do have line items in here. We have miscellaneous categories that we can work through. The only thing that we have to be careful of is with the type of monies that we bring in by the state legislature, they are pretty well guaranteed how they go out the door. That does not mean that we cannot get out and advocate, sell, recruit in any particular category that the city wants us to do. And that could be anything from retail to small business development to what we currently do. So anything that we can do in that respect, we want to help on. The second way, if I may, I'm sorry, that we're planning to help is we've already asked to change from a 501c6 corporation to a 501c3. That then allows us to go out and accept donations from within the community. Now, as you saw, we have a healthy balance. We don't need the money, but what we want is we want to work with local people that can fund those types of projects. More importantly, we hope to be able to raise money to fund scholarships for any of the students or the employees that need to have some type of training that might not be able to afford it. That's what we want to be a 501c3 for, so we can help those on the educational side. But we can also raise money for those items. Additionally, on the C6 to C3, it allows us to go after some federal monies that we are not eligible for right now because of our current C6 status. So we want to take advantage of every opportunity we can go out to bring money to the city, whether it's through the feds, the state, or being able to raise it for a good cause.
Okay, and then that leads me to my second question. If you go 2 slides back, you were talking about the program there, the planned events. So I didn't go to all of them. I went to several of them and I thought they were terrific. My compliments to your staff. And I know you're an economic development organization, but I would argue that I hope I live long enough to be in a world where quality of life and economic development are equally supported and equally valued. I hope that world also fully understands the overlap between economic development and quality of life and how one enriches the other. So might you, as a challenge, think about an event that would explore the overlapping boundaries of and interaction of economic development and quality of life? Because I think in our region, we need that much more so than in others.
Absolutely.
It's very easy to say we don't have enough money for X, Y, or Z, but someday when we have the money, we'll do it. On the other hand, it's much harder to say, okay, well, we really want and need X, Y, and Z. How can we creatively find a collaborative way to fund those types of projects or educational opportunities or so forth? So I would like to see you do some very innovative and proactive looks at how does economic development overlap into the world of quality of life, and how one does not detract from the other, but actually enriches it. And it might be a very interesting conference to bring some of the world's experts in those areas to Brownsville, of all places.
I can give you a brief answer on that. This is the first community in my 16 years where there's been a division amongst economic development and quality of life departments. Quality of life can absolutely be economic development. But I will also tell you, it is not my job to stand up here and try to take anybody else's job or suggest that we're going to do something that another organization is meant to do. But it is absolutely possible to do it. We know that we partner up with BCIC as much as we can right now, as well as we partner up with the chamber on particular events that we can do that with. UTRGV is another partner of ours that we support them, they support us. But when you're talking about quality of life, we can absolutely do that, and we should. We know that the city has needs. We want to be able to, to help offset those needs. So if you're talking about a very specific event, we are already talking about our event in December, where we invite a lot of people out to our organization. It's a little bit more of a black tie affair. And what we're looking at right now is to make that a clothing drive, a gently used clothing drive, going back to these students that are looking for apprenticeships. Because in Rally 3.0, we want to make sure that every student that walks in that door not only has the soft skills to present themselves, but they're dressed appropriately. And we also realize that most of them don't have the ability to go out and get these items. So we are trying to look at how can we benefit other people through events that we can put on. That's just a first example. I've only been here 5 weeks, but absolutely, we are more than interested in helping. What's that?
Collaborative events are great, and I love them, and I think that's the way we should live as collaborators, because we are in a very unique part of the world. But I'll let somebody else have comments. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And I'll echo Commissioner Gowen's. I think collaboration is key here. I commend you, Brett, and your team for thinking of innovative ways to match the new industries that are coming up in our community. I know, for example, Youth Build has a big closet for young professionals, maybe inviting them to be part of those events and expanding those collaborations with the community, right? I wanted to just highlight that I think it's very important right now that we invest on the workforce side of it. We have all of these great industries coming into our town now that they are demanding 5,000, 7,000 workforce that we don't have, unfortunately, at the moment. So in order for us to do that, we need to continue to cultivate a workforce environment where we're pushing out those people, like you said. So what I'd like to see is a little bit more investment in that sense that you said, let's keep and grow our own people here to be able to feed into those new systems. And I think it's just filling that gap so we can be sure that not just our industries flourish, but our economy here as well. And we are giving back directly to our families to give them a better life, a better lifestyle for their families. It's the only comment I had.
Yes, sir. And if I may, one of the issues that we are also looking at right now is not just to go out and recruit employers. We need to figure out a way to go out and recruit employees.
Right.
We need people here to fill the jobs that one particular business is looking for the next 5 years. 5,000 construction people of all various degrees of knowledge. We don't have that here. We know we can educate some of it here, but we need to go out and find those people who can come here. A secondary offshoot of that, which was mentioned to me by a board member, is then we're going to have to start thinking about housing. And so these are good problems to have, don't get me wrong. But collectively or collaboratively, we all need to come together and solve them. And honestly, this is one of those areas where we need to solve them sooner than later. Because if we don't, one of the other communities around us is going to solve it for us. And that's not a good thing.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
I'm gonna, if I could just comment, I know Brett and I met and we talked about our Brownsville South Potter Island Airport and the importance of economic development because we do have 60 tenants there. And one of the initiatives we talked about is them having kind of a mixture with our tenants to see, is there room for expansion, growth, what are the possible impediments to them thriving in our airport? And that's something, and also, SpaceX is there, right? Is there an opportunity for them to grow? Because there is no available space specifically there. So I know there'll be a collaboration between the interim airport director or the airport director as we get there, the city and GBIC with regard to, what's the next generation of our airport and that ensure that there's collaboration with that.
Yes, thank you. And I believe that, do we have a date yet? 20? October 10th is our date for our meet and greet. We're still trying to figure out if it's, like blast off breakfast or first class food or whatever we're going to call it. We don't know yet, but we'll, as soon as we nail down what the title of the event is going to be, we'll let you know and certainly welcome you all to attend if you're available.
Well, Brett, I'd just like to say you really hit the ground running, and I really appreciate the attitude and energy that you've brought to the organization and that sense of collaboration. Right, I think you're doing a great job in reaching out to all our community partners and all the people that you need to be talking to at this stage. So I commend you for that. So
thank you, sir. You ain't seen nothing yet.
Yeah.
And to piggyback on that, Brett, I've seen the evolution at GBIC for the last 2 years, which actually started even right before I joined the commission. And it's impressive to see how far we've come. I like the shift that I've seen to where we've accomplished so much now in filling an industrial park with your predecessor and the staff there at GBIC. I like the controls that the board has put into place to make sure moving forward, we're going to be in fantastic shape. But I think what I've been impressed with the most, what I appreciate the most, because this is something that this commission has shown is very important to us, is valuing the staff. And that's something just in 5 weeks I've already seen from you. So I think you're off to a great start. Keep that up, because we know that's something that's very big here at the city, and we're very proud of the gains we're making in those areas. And I see that happening in your neck of the woods as well. So good job on that, and keep up the good work.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
The team deserves all the respect in the world. They are fantastic. They just don't know it. And I try to tell them every day.
All right, I'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Ayes have it, motion carries.
Thank you.
Next, we have board appointments. Consideration and action, if any, to approve resolution number 2023-104 to appoint, reappoint, and/or remove members of the Transit Advisory Committee, tabled from August 15, 2023.
Mayor, City Commissioners, we have before you one member that is still currently, we were able to provide the actual date based on records that was pulled. And so we have 6 vacancies. Unfortunately, even though we delayed coming back to commission to make sure we advertise and let the public know, we had 2 members that applied from the public, but the current members that we have were not able to apply, but do express interest in continuing to serve their last term.
I'm sorry, and of course, before we have discussion, if we can have a vote or a motion to remove it from the table?
I'll move to take from the table.
All right, we have a motion. Do we have a second? Second. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Ayes have it. Can you go back to the previous slide? So what is that second column on the right, on the far right? The one that has no title?
Appointed?
Yeah, it says appointed by, and then there's another set of people. So there, that was the original appointment, and then.
Correct.
And then,
So the intent was to.
The far
Hey.
right shows
Oh,
who
that's
it
a new
belongs
one,
to,
okay.
who
I
the
got
seat
you.
appointment belongs
I
to.
got you. All right, I understand now.
And I apologize, I don't know if I missed it. Did we get the applications for the two applicants? I know you guys are usually really good about sending that out, and I've been a little behind on my emails.
No, sir, I did not forward those applications. I do have a copy though.
Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna hold mine just because I'd like a chance to review those to see if I like either of those candidates. And I'll have someone for you at the next meeting for my appointment.
I would like to appoint Jose Saldivar Martinez. Jose Martinez.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Ayes have it. Motion carries.
I'd like to appoint Graham Seaver.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Ayes have it. Motion carries.
So do I have an appointment? I'm going to hold mine because I don't have a name.
I'm going to hold mine as well.
Yeah, I am as well.
Anybody? Yeah, that's it, right?
For next meeting?
Yes. For next meeting.
Okay.
You gonna adjourn?
I'll move to adjourn.
Okay.
All right, we have a motion to adjourn and a second. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor, please say aye. All opposed say
Aye.
nay. Ayes have it. Meeting adjourned.
Meeting ended at 7:32 PM. Thank you.